All right. Welcome to the Radical Independent. I'm Dave. And what happened last night? What happened? Election day, 11/8, 2022. The red wave that ends up being almost non existent. What happened? I mean, the polls all had the red wave, even, places like NBC News were saying, the red wave is a coming. And then you wake up today, much like a lot of people woke up in 2020, and things didn't go all that well. When John Fetterman wins an election and wins it easily, look, I know Oz, a complete clown. Look, most of these people, you're choosing, I'm not saying you're choosing the lesser of two evils, but in a lot of these elections, like Fetterman versus Oz, I mean, Oz, really? I mean, those dyed-in-the-wool conservatives are all like, yeah, let's vote for Oz, and Trump endorsed Oz. Donald Trump did not have a very good night last night, in the sense that he put a lot of effort into elections. I know there are some victories, but then there are some surprising losses as well. So the thing is completely up in the air. And I said on my other channel that yesterday was selection day, and I believe that. What is going on? Look, if the polls are all out there telling you something's going to happen and it doesn't, it's one of two things. It's the polling sucks, which it could be, or it's more predictive programming. I said this in a video I did a few days ago where Biden's like, well, gee, it's going to take a long time to count those votes. And this morning on the news, what did they say? It's going to take a long time to count those votes, and it could be weeks. It could be weeks, like that Arizona governor's race, Kari Lake, Katie Hobbs. Look, you may not like Kari Lake, but she is definitely a thorn in the establishment. And I like that kind of candidate. I like the candidate who is driving the establishment crazy and who completely can play the media because they were the media and they know how the whole thing works. Plus, she's familiar with the Arizona media market. So it's kind of fun to watch. And, Tulsi Gabbard went out there and she endorsed Kari Lake. And I think Kari Lake would be an interesting person on the political scene. But, if I'm betting, it's slim odds that she's going to get there. And the reason it's slim odds, and I'm hoping I'm wrong about that. I'm hoping I'm wrong about everything that I'm saying. I hope I'm wrong about that. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with election day, and it goes beyond just the machines and the paper ballots and the fact that they can't seem to run elections in certain states, and it keeps happening over and over again. Like in Philadelphia, right? Talking about Fetterman versus Oz. Like Fetterman had like 96% of the vote. I'm sorry. I'm thinking that if I get on the ballot and there's a letter next to my name and it's an identifiable letter, an R or a D, I'm not going to just get 5%. I'm on the ballot, and I think people will misvote more than 5% of the time. They'll make a mistake and vote for the wrong guy more than it's showing up in Philadelphia for Dr. Oz. As much as I don't like Dr. Oz, I'm thinking he got more than 5% in Philadelphia, but that's like 600,000 votes for Fetterman. So it's over. It's over. And right now, I hate to say it, but this system that we have where the urban areas are controlling the entire population of a state because they've got dense population in one area. Those people have specific wants, needs, and beliefs. The people out in the suburbs have different wants, needs, and beliefs. And the people in the rural communities have a whole other set of wants and needs and beliefs. So you've got giant urban areas where probably there's, in addition to the fact that these people think differently than the people out in the burbs and in the rural communities, I'm guessing that there is probably some chicanery going on top of that. So you're controlling your entire population by just fixing, quote unquote, fixing one area. And even if it's legal, even if, 95% of the people voted for Fetterman, you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, that's not representative government. It's not. It's winner take all. It's mob rules. It's not a Republican form of government. And the founders, in all of their wisdom, could have never envisioned that these population centers would become hubs of corruption and weird thinking and weird cultural norms. And we can go on and on. And this is controlling the entire country, even without the chicanery, even without what seems to be predictive programming. Hey, we're gonna do some polls. Red wave's coming. Sure it is. Sure it is. I saw this one a mile away. Just like, let's all march up to the Capitol, and we'll give them a piece of our mind. This will be like the second or third time we do it. That'll be the day where they're supposed to cast the votes to certify the election. We'll go peacefully, but then people will let us come through the doors. It's, folks, I don't want to say everything is a conspiracy, but I feel like I'm in some kind of a sci-fi movie. And at the end of it, the Earth is just going to explode. The stress on the planet, the stress on the people who live on the planet, it's becoming overwhelming. There are days, I'll be honest, there are days where I'm pretty depressed as an individual. I sit and I think about the future, and there's no way out. Tell me what the way out is. You guys out there, post comments. What's the way out? Vote libertarian? Yeah, you throw your vote away. I almost did. I didn't, actually. I voted ours. I voted for one. I'm not going to say who I voted for, but I voted for one L here in the state of Florida, because I just the two. I mean, they're all like, when you think it through, none of these people. I mean, DeSantis, do I like him? Yeah, I like DeSantis. I'm not going to lie. DeSantis is pretty cool. He's kept the state open. He's for parents' rights. He's more libertarian than a lot of Republicans who are just like garden variety type characters. So I like him. He got a lot of stuff done. He's a good manager of chaos during the hurricane. People, I mean, if they're complaining about Ron DeSantis, then, I don't know. I've seen botched things. Remember George W. Bush during Katrina, if you think back, and all of that stuff, by the way, isn't really in the purview necessarily of like government planning and so forth. But if you look at it through the lens of, government is supposed to protect us from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And, if you've got a geoengineered hurricane heading your way, and there's a lot of evidence to that stuff, and you should really look into it. I'm not trying to, distract you with another tinfoil hat issue here. Anyway, I think you're supposed to protect your community and help them recover. And, the government basically trying to smoke you out of your waterfront home so you won't build there again. You'll listen to them about climate change, and you'll change your attitude, and you'll move to higher ground, and you'll live in a little box, because you don't want to use up valuable resources, and you'll eat bugs, and you'll be happy. I mean, that's the future, right? And so that's why I get depressed, because it's one thing, to eat a plant-based hamburger, but when someone else is telling you, hey, you're going to probably have to eat, we've got cricket flour that you could start baking with. And I'm like, what? But we're going in that direction. As crazy as all that sounds, and as, I'm actually trying to have a sense of humor about this, but yesterday should be a black-pilled moment, should be like an overdose on the black pill yesterday. When I said, hey, it's selection day on my other channel, I wasn't trying to be funny. I'm telling you what happened. I mean, can someone explain to me why in supposedly the greatest country on the face of the earth, we can't count our ballots on the day that we have our vote? We can't do it. We can't get it done before midnight. We just can't get it done. You know, ballots are still coming in. All right, you've got all of this electronic equipment which records votes. Now, again, what could go wrong with that? France, they do, I think, paper ballots now, right? They do paper ballots and they're hand counted, and things seem to go well when the French have their elections. But here in the United States, we run into the same thing. And it's the same states. I mean, again, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona, all of these, what I would consider battleground states where you would think they would know, based on what happened the previous time, that they better get their act together. But it's just a rerun, and everybody takes the bait. A lot of my Republican friends, they're like, oh, it's going to be different. It's going to be a red wave, red tsunami. I heard Steve Bannon say it's going to be a red wave. And then you wake up and, hey, Steve, and this is the guy who advised Trump and who's pretty smart. Steve, what happened? What's going on? And all of your pundits and all of the people in your orbit all basically saying the same thing. Polls show that, the guy in New Hampshire running for the Senate, he's neck and neck. In New Hampshire? You mean Boston North? Come on, people. Come on. The demographics have changed so radically, and the politics, the Overton window has shifted so far. That's why you have common sense people like Tulsi Gabbard saying, hey, I used to believe that the Second Amendment was maybe in need of, some reform, but now I think that we should really, stand by the Second Amendment. Now, it's not just Tulsi Gabbard. It's a lot of what I would consider JFK old school Democrats who've come home to the fact that their party is crazy. And what the Republicans have managed to do is become the party of not quite as crazy, or neutral, or, yeah, we'll look the other way a little bit and then we'll fundraise off of the Democrats and they're crazy. The sad thing is, and this is what a lot of people I think have to come to grips with, is that there are enough people in our population, and not just enough, but a lot. There are a lot of people in our population, in our midst, walking around, driving alone in their car with a mask on right now as I speak, who don't know how to vote, who don't know how to think. I'm serious. They don't know how to think. They don't say, gee, I'd like to stop this inflation. I'd like to pay less for groceries. I'd like to have some savings. I'd like money to be worth something. Now, we can get into the whole Federal Reserve thing, but just at the basic level, wouldn't you want to do the U-turn? And if the guy over here, and he's got an R next to his name, and he's saying, vote for me, all right, and I'll lower your taxes, or I'll allow your kids to go to school without mandates, vaccines, any kind of restrictions, I will be that person. And the person looking at that says, no, I don't want that. What I want is, I don't know, pick a pet peeve issue. I mean, even abortion, which is a big issue, supposedly that was polling down around 5%. And it was something like number 8 on the list, after crime and inflation and endless war, which I don't know if it turns out to be endless war, but I'm putting it in there. Endless war. We shouldn't be, because we'd have a lot more. You'd have all the money you needed for infrastructure and more, quite honestly, because we've sent like $100 billion to Ukraine. That's just Ukraine. And nobody talks about foreign policy because it's too complicated. And these people, they just sit there like zombies, and they go and they hear things in the news like Donald Trump is mean, and and again, I'm not defending there's no way I'm defending everything about Trump here, but people vote stupidly. They go, I want the guy who shakes hands with imaginary people running the country. I want a guy who had a stroke who says, hello, good night, everybody, during a debate. I want him in the Senate to make decisions on my behalf. Now, my black-pilled ultimate theory, and it's not a new theory, it's just maybe a little bit more concise than the way it's presented. You know, the deep state, there's a deep sort of shadowy. I don't think it's shadowy. I think it's right there. It's at the Pentagon. It's at Homeland Security. It's at the FDA. It's right out there. If you want to find it, it's there. If the politicians who are elected wanted to find the unelected bureaucrats who are the executive branch now, the president is like underneath the executive branch. He's like sub-executive. He's not full executive. He throws things up to the higher executive, and they either shoot it down or they curtail it or they manipulate it. You know what I mean? They never just completely sign off on it unless there's a puppet, a complete puppet in there, which most of the presidents are. But Biden is a full strength puppet. Trump was not. But Trump did things to placate them. You can't hire Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and have Mike Pence as your vice president, and you're going to tell me that you're the conservative, like you're the hardcore conservative. See, that's why these labels don't mean anything to me anymore. They just don't. I'm a libertarian right here. Hello, libertarian. I'd like to vote for libertarians, but they all kind of suck, or they don't have any money, or they're not going to get any traction. We had a couple here in Florida, decent candidates, got like 0.002% of the vote or some ridiculous amount. It's a joke. You're not going to win. Maybe people will say, look, the libertarian got 3%. That's higher than the 2% they got the last time. I'll be 180 years old by the time one of them wins at the federal level. I'll be really old. Now, hopefully it will happen before that. But things aren't looking good. And so, you know, what happened last night, the red trickle, the red tinkle, it didn't happen. We're locked neutral. This morning, it's neutral. Senate up for grabs. House up for grabs still. You know, and so you've essentially got the same thing before all of this hand-wringing, before all of the turmoil, all of the chaos, all of those hearings that the Republicans said that they were going to do. They might not be able to have any hearings. Look, they might win the House by a few seats, which, again, if they control the House of Representatives and they all vote together, then maybe they can stop some of the madness. But how many of those Republican House members are just neocons? How many of those people are going to vote in lockstep when they approve all of this money that they are sending to places like Ukraine? They're all going to vote together, and there's going to be no change. And they're going to have to print more money, which means more inflation. And the average zombie voter says, oh, I want more of this. And they don't ask any questions. Look, if you can fix things locally, state rep, school board, town council, county commissioner, that's where you need to put your energy. It really is. Because it would be nice if we could just get out of the contract with this United States of America thing. It was good for a while. Like Tom Woods likes to say, we need a peaceful divorce. We need a peaceful divorce. We needed it like yesterday. And after watching election after election where you're like, how can people be this stupid? Now, again, it's still going to be tough to get a quorum or a collection of people who can think clearly, even locally. You know, if you've ever belonged to an HOA, which I belong to right now, you know that you can't get people to agree on anything. But it is easier at the local level. And I think you can monitor the voting a lot easier at the local level. And you can take things into your own hands. You can have your own way of doing things. You can have paper ballots, with blue pens. And if it's not a blue pen and a paper ballot, and if it's not put in the box this way, and if your name isn't on it, then it doesn't count. Whereas today, they're basically, hey, we're going to wait for ballots to show up. Yeah, you do that. And then all of those deep executive, high executive candidates will just miraculously win. That's what's going to happen. And it's tragedy. It's a complete joke. And our country is a joke. And the people who are pulling this over on us, both on the left and on the right, the right had everybody convinced, yeah, we're going to win. It's going to be, I get friends that they're heartbroken. They're heartbroken today. And I understand. I'm disappointed because I was hoping that, a few of these people get in. Maybe they just stop it and lock it down and shut it down. Maybe they say, you know what? No more money going to Ukraine. You know what? We need to focus on this economy right here. We need to work on having affordable energy here in the United States. That's what we need to do. No pie in the sky. Don't shut down a coal plant and think one windmill is going to fix that problem. It's not. It's not. I'm all for clean, sustainable energy, but it's not ready for prime time. It's not ready to support 330 million people. Not quite. So you have to have solutions to these problems. You just can't do this, hey, we're just going to shut it down. We're going to go all electric. Well, where are you going to get the lithium? I mean, nobody has answers to these questions. And, the whole thing is, well, if we just quit cold turkey, then people will figure it out. Yeah. Let's see what happens over in Europe this winter. We'll see how that scenario plays itself out. And then, you can model your new energy program after what Europe has been doing. And they're not, accepting any energy from Russia. So we'll see how that works out. And we'll see what transpires in the days and weeks ahead, because that's what we've been told. It's going to take days, weeks, maybe even months to decide who is actually in the House or the Senate and who is at the governor's mansion, depending on what state it is. I don't know all of these races, but I do know that it's pretty deadlocked, and there are going to be recounts. There are going to be runoffs. There's going to be all kinds of fun stuff. And this is what we need going into the holiday season, right? Celebrate the joy of the holiday season with more stress, more anxiety, knowing that the political system in the United States is broken. It's broken. That's why we need to divorce from one another. I will be happy to become the new, country of Florida, right? Why not? Florida, the country, the Republic of Florida. It would be amazing to break away from this nightmare, this Federal Reserve nightmare that we're living through. But man, I don't see us doing anything that drastic, because nobody has any courage. Everybody just wants the status quo. The status quo means it's the rules-based order, and we have to all obey the rules-based order, whatever that is. And we're living through the rules-based nightmare. And the higher executive, whoever's controlling this, whether, again, it's the Pentagon, Homeland Security, all of these different alphabet soup agencies that are putting checks on everything and essentially deciding who is put where and what they will tolerate. In other words, yeah, we'll tolerate DeSantis down here in Florida for a while. If DeSantis, Trump's talking about announcing again, hey, Donald Trump, read my lips. Don't run for president. Don't run for president. There's somebody else. There's got to be somebody else out there. I know everybody likes the circus. They like the pomp and the circumstance. We are beyond that. But here's the other real punchline. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Because as soon as the president gets to the White House, they become controlled opposition. Until you get rid of, and when I say get rid of, I mean abolish this executive that looms above the presidency, until you abolish that, this isn't going to change. This is going to keep going. So those are my thoughts on the red trickle. Really sad, really sad. But you know what? I hate to say it, but I called it. I called it. And again, we're doing the insanity routine. We keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And for you libertarian types out there, there's nowhere for us to go. There just isn't. I mean, you support the candidate, the idea that gives you maybe 10 or 20% of what you truly believe, and then you hold your nose for the other 70 or 80, and you just deal with it. And you hope to get a little, a few crumbs falling off the table. I don't know if that's ever going to change in my lifetime. I do not have a lot of hope. The only hope I have is in my God, my Savior, who is Jesus. And I know that's a weird thing to say at the end of this video, but what else is there? What else is there? Your God may be somebody else or something else. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to live your life, and you've got to try to be happy and productive and raise your family and get along with the people that you know, and, keep your head above water and make ends meet. Those are really the only concerns that most people have. But having a government that functions and works would be a nice little bonus, would be a nice little add-on to everything. So yeah, there you have it. From soup to nuts, from doubt to faith, from a screwed up political system to a guy who's just shooting his mouth off. That would be me. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Don't run away. I know this video was a little chaotic, but hang out. I'll eventually have a good guest on, and that might, make up for this video.